Hello students, this is Professor McDermott with the video recap of your Module 5 discussions on the Industrial Revolution. Let's see what you guys had to say about these documents. Group 1, you had a section of The Wealth of Nations, the 1776 book by Adam Smith, who really is the great theorist of the Industrial Revolution and of what we call laissez-faire capitalism going into the 19th century. I asked for question 1, according to Adam Smith, are the interests of business people the same as the interests of society? And the answer is a little surprising. Brandy Bowman, I liked your answer here. Ultimately, the people in the business are trying to keep their profits as high as possible. They are more concerned about their business rather than society as a whole. It's not personal, it's just business. And interestingly, for someone who's so positive about business, Adam Smith realizes that the interests of big business are not always the interest of society. Nevertheless, he makes a very interesting statement. Question 2 was, does Smith think that business people promote the interest of society? And Jerquisha Gilbert, here was your answer. Business people never intend or are aware of how much they promote the interest of the whole society. They actually promote the interest of society better, but unintentionally, by pursuing their own interest. So in other words, Smith is very realistic about this, and he says business people are just out for their own personal self-interest. But, he says, in pursuing their own self-interest, they unintentionally do promote the interests of society. And he says it's as if an invisible hand were guiding them in their actions to bring about the better good of society, even though that is not what they intend to do. That's a very famous argument from this book. So it's a case of unintended consequences. Businesses really do promote the interests of society without really meaning to. For your third question, I asked Group 1 to do a little creative writing, and I said, pretend you were Smith giving a speech to a group of workers and trying to explain why the Industrial Revolution was going to be a good thing for them. And here's the answer posted by Lavandria Jones. Very nice job as chair, Lavandria. A portion of their answer. The Industrial Revolution is ultimately trying to help improve everyone. It would make it a lot less expensive to buy or make goods elsewhere where it is cheaper to produce them. This would help the overall economy. Today, I come to you to show an understanding of how the Industrial Revolution will be for us workers and all of the society. The Industrial Revolution will help the educated and uneducated make wages to live in society. For example, a man that is not educated in a certain business will be able to work in a particular trade and will not be declined from a position. Therefore, the Industrial Revolution opens up numerous jobs for all to better survive in society. The Industrial Revolution allows multiplication of productions in different aspects of the division of labor. In addition, the Industrial Revolution will help enhance our society. We will have access to maintaining better roads and a better way of communication. Better roads will make traveling and carrying goods better. Therefore, society will grow and make life better for us. And that was Smith's insight in a sense. Previous economic theorists had thought that the economy was like a pie that never got any bigger. And so if one group benefited, another group had to lose. But Smith's idea was that no, it's like the pie with capitalism. The pie keeps getting bigger and bigger, and everybody benefits. Even though there may be some inequalities in the short term, in the long term, the whole society will benefit. But often that is not how it appeared to the workers who were affected by the new factory system that sprang up starting in Great Britain and moving to other countries during this Industrial Revolution. In Group 2, you had a document by the Journeyman Cotton Spinner. This is a worker in the textile industry in Great Britain, and he describes the effect of industrialization, the move to factories on workers in his industry in a very, very negative way. And one of the points he makes is that workers are really locked into their jobs because if they quit, there's no opportunity for them anywhere else. I asked Group 2, why was that? And John Matthews, I liked your post here. They can't work anywhere else because he says there is an abominable combination existing among the masters, first established at Stockport in 1802. No other master will employ a spinner that has left their previous master. So, in other words, in 1802 at Stockport, the factory owners got together and essentially created a blacklist and agreed to share information. So, if someone quit one factory because they didn't like the wages or the working conditions, none of the other factory owners would hire them. And so essentially you were stuck in the job that you had, and you really didn't have the freedom to switch jobs if you were discontented. And for the journeyman cotton spinner, the situation was so bad that he actually goes so far as to say that the English textile workers are worse off than slaves, African American slaves in the West Indies. And that's a very controversial statement. So I asked Group 2, why does he think that, and what did they think about this? And here's Catherine McDonald's answer. The author believes the English spinners have it worse off than the West Indian slaves. He believes this because spinners are cooped up in hot factories all day and have no leisure time to enjoy with their families. I do not think it is fair to say the West Indian slaves had it better off than the English spinners, however. And Aaron Ravago elaborated on that. He said, I have a different opinion than the cotton spinner due to the fact that the spinners still had a choice. Due to the fact that it would be hard for them, but they could immigrate to a different area without any repercussions. But if the West Indies slave tried to leave, they would be hunted down and captured or even killed. And I think that's how most of us would react, that at least the English cotton spinners still had their freedom, unlike the West Indian slaves. But it's interesting from this document, I think you do see what was really at stake for these people that got caught up in the Industrial Revolution, where the working conditions really were pretty horrible, and there were not the kind of protections that we have in place for laborers today. Finally, question 3, I asked Group 2, what did they think? Would it have been better to keep the old way of doing business before the factory system, before the Industrial Revolution? Or was the Industrial Revolution a good thing? And you guys kind of divided up here in an interesting way. Brianna Mack and Haley Rainey, the chair, who did a nice job also, seemed to lean more towards keeping the old system. A lot of other people, the other 3 members, however, really pointed out some of the benefits that have come to us from the Industrial Revolution. And Haley made a nice focus post that really combined both viewpoints in a good way. After reading everyone's post, I feel that we pretty much felt the same way about the use of machinery. At that time, before the Industrial Revolution, it gave more jobs to the women, and they were given shillings and had the time to spend with their families. But I do know that today we wouldn't have been where we are without the Industrial Revolution. So in this discussion, I feel that during that time, the move to machinery was a negative thing. But in the long run, we wouldn't be where we are today without the move to machinery. And of course, we wouldn't have the iPhone 7 that I am recording this on. We wouldn't have D2L or computers or anything really that we take for granted nowadays had it not been for the Industrial Revolution. But of course, it is also good for us to remember the terrible suffering that people had to go through for us to get to this point technologically. Okay, good job. Moving on to Group 3, you had a different topic. The opium trade, the British selling opium to the Chinese people, and the Chinese people trying to get the British to stop. And their document was by a Chinese official named Commissioner Lin, who wrote a letter to Queen Victoria protesting on behalf of the Chinese government this opium trade. And Group 3, you guys are doing so great about getting on the same page, really working together as a unit, that I'm just going to give your group answers here because your group process has been excellent. So here are the group answers posted by Chance Stodgehill, who did a great job as chair as well. In his letter, Commissioner Lin believes, quote, that the actions of the Chinese government have allowed them to become the rich and flourishing country that they are, namely Great Britain. In other words, the Chinese take all the credit for Britain being the great country that it is. And some of you thought that was kind of a preposterous statement, but it kind of shows how the Chinese viewed themselves as being the most important civilized power in the world. Everybody else is just second best compared to them. But Commissioner Lin goes on to protest the opium trade. And here's your letter. Here's your answer to question 2 here. In his letter, Commissioner Lin uses the tactic of compare and contrast to differentiate the goods exchanged between Great Britain and China. Lin argues that the goods exported from China to Britain are valuable to the country and its people. Their exported goods are an advantage, such as tea, rhubarb, and silk, because they are beneficial and useful, which allows the country to profit. However, in return, the British export a poisonous drug known as opium, which only profits Britain. It is dangerous to man and not a worthy trading good that benefits both countries. Though the British are willing to export such a toxic drug to China, it is strictly prohibited within their own country. And so that's the point Lin is trying to make, that we've done all these good things for you, Britain. Why are you stabbing us in the back by selling us this poisonous, addictive drug and ruining our country? And I also asked Group 3 to do some creative writing. So for their third question, they drafted a letter to the Emperor of China about the progress of the negotiations with Queen Victoria. And here's their letter. Dear Emperor, I have made it fully aware to the Queen about your unyielding position on the import of opium into China. I have approached this issue in a respectful manner that includes our reasoning and a plan of action. Queen Victoria is well informed on how dangerous and unbeneficial opium is to mankind, being the reason that it is prohibited in Great Britain. To elaborate on her position in her own country, I made it clear that she should not have the heart to have something done unto another country which she doesn't want done to her own. For a course of action has been conveyed that we would still like to continue being trading partners only if opium is banned within our commercial intercourse. We will no longer be affected by its degrading effects just so that they can profit. If they are not willing to comply with our proposal, then drastic actions will be taken, such as limiting the useful goods we export to them, fines, and arrest. Further negotiations will not be needed if they just take this simple plan of action and respect our people. Sincerely, Commissioner Lin. Unfortunately, as we know from the lectures, that's not how it played out. But Group 3, you did a great job of conveying the Chinese indignation over this issue. Nice job, everybody. Looking forward to the next group of discussions. Thanks.